Okay. The March 24th meeting of the Mayor and Council will come to order at 7 p.m. The meeting is being broadcast on channels 34 and 43 and the Township's YouTube channel, the Township of Fairfield, Essex. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Mayor, notice of this meeting is in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231 of the laws of 1975, and has been given by posting a notice of the scheduled dates and change in meeting time of all conference and regular meetings of the Mayor and Council of the Township of Fairfield, and on the bulletin board in the municipal building and in the office of the municipal clerk, and by serving notice thereof to the Star Ledger and Progress newspapers on December 26, 2024.
Thank you, Denise. Please call the roll.
Councilman McGlynn.
Here.
Councilman Cifelli.
Here.
Councilman LaForgia.
Here.
Council President Campisi.
Here.
Mayor Galise.
Here. Okay. Public comment session. Anything referable to tonight's agenda? If you would like to speak on it, please come forward. State your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Nicholas Muccio. I'm the construction official. I live at 91 Jackson Ave, Rockland Plains, New Jersey.
Excuse me, if you could just turn the microphone on, please.
Is it on now?
Yes. Thank you.
All right. I have a statement. So again, my name is Nicholas Muccio, and I'm the construction, plumbing, electrical, and building official, as well as the only electrical, plumbing, fire, mechanical, and building inspector for the Township of Fairfield since our other inspector's surgery. I represent the building department almost in its entirety, and I love my job. And from these letters of recommendations that I have here in this folder, the homeowners and the contractors in this town also love me. I want to ask the public the same thing I asked the mayor after finding out only a couple days ago. Why? You are going to hire a minimum of 4 people for everything that I do for the department. That's how highly qualified I am. That means the town will take on 4 times the liability for a fall, an accident on the road, or the job site. 4 times the sick days, the training costs, the possible personnel differences. Why? The Department of Community Affairs of the state of New Jersey came in last week and did an audit on the building department to check not only the township's hiring and reappointment process, but also the fiscal health and proper administration of the Uniform Construction Code. From this first meeting, I have been informed, as well as the township administrator and mayor, that the township is in violation of the proper hiring and reappointments of the construction and subcode official. Furthermore, township has been notified that the fees generated by the building department are to be used to sustain the building department. Anything else would be a misappropriation of funds, which is against New Jersey state law. So again, I ask why. Is it because I started asking where the rest of the money is? In the last 4 years, roughly speaking, we brought in $1.8 million. Yet the walls of my offices are old wood paneling, the rugs are ragged, I drive only one vehicle, and many of the people in this town may have seen that vehicle. It had the yellow folders on it as they go from job to job. So again, why? Now let's assume the worst, and you pretend that the letters of recommendations never existed. You ignore the people who live here. You ignore the people who own commercial property, industrial property, and the contractors. And you also pretend that there is a need not only for a new construction official, but an assistant construction official. That you need a person identified not only as a subcode official for electrical, but then you need another person to do electrical inspections. I do all of that myself. When I was first hired, I was started at a salary of $75,000, and through night class and additional testings, I was able to acquire additional licenses. And in May of 2022, I was appointed the building subcode official. And through salary negotiations through the mayor at that time and the business or the township administrator, my salary increased for that one license by $41,100. It could be seen as a resolution. Since then, I've been given a 5% increase each year. And therefore, if the board goes forward with this, because I must stay as the building subcode official, I have one more year. My salary should be $45,312.75. I have 23 banked sick days with various banked holidays, vacation days that I have to go through. I love my job, and I look out for the homeowners. I work alongside the contractors. We've never had a complaint, only one, and that was from a building owner who felt that the boards were weaponizing the construction department against him, and I defended the town and told him that no, they did not weaponize us, but you guys were constantly in our offices. I inspect the work and I finalize the certificate of occupancies. We meet all of the deadlines. I hope the mayor understands he has tremendous power of appointment and that he was voted in to represent everyone in town, not the guys that are driving the new trucks. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to comment on tonight's agenda? Okay, seeing no one, we'll close that portion. Communications, Police Department communications, I think we'll have enough communications tonight. We're gonna let that go for a while. The Library Board, the new spring event inactivities are out. The calendar's now on the website, so please view the site to see the offerings, which range all the way from crafts to movies. That's all I have tonight. Council President Campisi.
Thank you, Mayor. So we have a bike rodeo planned for Saturday, May 3rd. The location will be at the Rec House. Time to follow. Senior luncheon is scheduled for Wednesday, May 14th at 11:30 at Doubletree Hotel. And lead day is May 19th, Monday, May 19th, and that time to follow as well. And for Environmental Commission, I have no new updates. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Peter. Councilman LaForgia.
Mayor, for Planning Board had a meeting. We had two applications which received approvals after review. We don't have a meeting scheduled until April 8th, our next Planning Board meeting. Recreation, we have a meeting tomorrow night at 5:45. 3 of our travel teams became champions in their leagues, the senior boys, senior girls, and junior boys. And one of our freshman boy teams won their playoff games. So we'll be honoring the teams at the meeting tomorrow night. Practice is beginning this week for the Little League, official Little League baseball program, pilot program. And opening day for baseball is set on for April 11th. And just a reminder that the bocce team signups are available on the recreational website. And that's all I have for now, Mayor.
Thanks, John. You have a number on the Little League? Is there do we have a lot of signups for that so far?
I don't have the official number because they'll be starting practices and setting things this week.
Okay, thank you, John.
Okay.
Councilman McGlynn?
Okay, Mayor. The DPW is preparing for the seasonal sports that are coming up this spring. On the volunteer fire department, since our last meeting, they went to 33 calls. Some of those calls included on March 23rd. They responded to the Passaic River to assist with the removal of a body. It was found on the 15th. They responded to Two Bridges Road for a fire in a building. On the 8th, they responded to Gardner Road for a fire in a building contained by the fire sprinkler system. On the 5th, they responded to Passaic Avenue for a car fire. And on February 29th, they responded to a brush fire on the border of North Caldwell. And on the 27th of February, they responded to a car fire on Route 80. And also coming up is their annual pancake breakfast. It's their 46th. It's going to be on Sunday, April the 13th, at the Fairfield Fire Hall at 5 Commerce Road. It will take place from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. And we encourage everybody to come out and support our volunteers. They do a lot for our community, and they deserve our support. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Councilman Cifelli?
Thank you, Mayor. I have no report from OEM and from the Finance Department, just one issue here. If everyone should have received this application form for property tax reimbursement, the senior tax freeze, Anchor, and the Stay New Jersey program. I recommend that, firstly, if you did not receive it, please contact our tax office and we'll help you get one. But I recommend, after going through it, that you should have your tax consultant fill this out for you. There are some trick questions in here, and it's totally different than it's been years gone by. So, with that said, that's it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joe.
Mayor,
Mayor,
excuse
if I
me.
may jump in
I'm
a
sorry,
second?
Mayor.
Sure.
Just one quick addition. We have about 280 boys and girls in the baseball program.
Wow, okay.
Just
Thanks, John.
Mayor, as far as the tax freeze program goes, on April 15th, we're having someone from the state of New Jersey come in
Oh, good.
over to the rec center.
Yeah.
And all are invited. You can come with your questions and hopefully they can guide you through it.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, approval of the February 24th, 2025 minutes. We're going to table the executive minutes. They're not quite finished yet, but can I have a motion for approval of the regular meeting minutes?
So moved.
Councilman LaForgia, Council President Campisi.
Councilman LaForgia.
Aye.
Council President Campisi.
Aye.
Councilman McGlynn.
Aye.
Councilman Cifelli.
Aye.
Mayor Glees.
Aye. All right, first reading and hearing of ordinance number 2025-10. It's an ordinance to fix salaried and other compensation of the municipal employees and employees of the Township of Fairfield. It's pretty self-explanatory. It just fixes the salaries. It updates and fixes the salaries and compensation. May I have a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Council President Campisi.
Second.
Councilman McGlynn.
Council President Campisi.
Aye.
Councilman McGlynn.
Aye.
Councilman Cifelli.
Aye.
Councilman LaForgia.
Aye.
Mayor Glees.
Aye. Second reading, Denise?
Will be April 7th.
Okay, thank you. Okay, B, ordinance 2025-11. It's an ordinance of the Township of Fairfield, Essex County, New Jersey, amending Chapter 2, Administration of the Township Code. May I have a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Councilman Cifelli.
Second.
Councilman LaForgia.
Councilman Cifelli.
Aye.
Councilman LaForgia.
Aye.
Councilman McGlynn.
Aye.
Council President Campisi.
Aye.
Mayor Glees.
Aye, and that's the same date for second reading?
That's correct.
Okay, number C, ordinance 2025-12. It's an ordinance of the Township of Fairfield, Essex County, New Jersey, amending Chapter 10, Building and Housing of the Township Code. May I have a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Councilman McGlynn,
Second.
Council President Campisi.
Councilman McGlynn.
Aye.
Council President Campisi.
Aye.
Councilman Cifelli.
Aye.
Councilman LaForgia.
Aye.
Excuse me. Mayor Glees.
Aye. Okay, our consent agenda tonight, Administration Department, Resolution A, resolution terminating the employment of Marcia Sheff effective March 11th, 2025. B, resolution of the Township of Fairfield, County of Essex, State of New Jersey, confirming the expiration of term for construction, electrical, plumbing, subcode official, and layoff of the electrical, plumbing, and fire and building inspector. C, authorization to hire Anthony Lipari as the code enforcement officer effective April 7th, 2025. D, authorization to reappoint Kevin Doherty as elevator inspector for the year 2025, and authorization to pay Kevin Doherty relating to elevator inspections performed for years 2023 and 2024. E, appointment of Watson C. Lopez as construction official, plumbing subcode official, building, plumbing, electrical, fire, and mechanical inspector for the Township of Fairfield, effective May 3rd, 2025. F, appointment of Leonard J. Mendola as assistant construction official and building inspector for the Township of Fairfield, effective May 3rd, 2025. G, appointment of William M. Christian as electrical subcode official for the Township of Fairfield, effective May 3rd, 2025. H, appointment of Michael Wallace as electrical inspector on an as-needed basis for the Township of Fairfield, effective May 3rd, 2025. I, appointment of John E. Redstone as fire inspector on a special needed basis for the Township of Fairfield, effective May 3rd, 2025. J, authorizing award of a contract to Delta Dental of New Jersey to provide dental insurance services for the Township of Fairfield. K, rejecting a bid for the Township of Fairfield's reevaluation of commercial, residential, and real property. L, authorizing an award of contract to Piazza and Associates to provide affordable housing compliance services to the Township of Fairfield. M, authorizing award of contract to Blau & Blau for special tax counsel services for reverse tax appeals for the Township of Fairfield. Building Department Resolution N, authorization to renew annual software maintenance agreement with MC System Solution in the amount of $5,100 for a 3-year term. Engineering Department Resolution O, authorization to return road opening bond 7766-194432 to Foresight Enviroprobe in the amount of $3,550. P, accepting performance bond number 790-1234550 from Suburban Disposal in the amount of $845,000. Q, authorization to release escrow balance for application number 2021-18 in the amount of $2,240.80. R, authorization to amend Resolution 2024-395 relating to a professional service contract with Matarazzo Engineering for surveying services on Valentino Road. S, authorization to solicit bids for Beverly Road sidewalks, Phase 3, the resurfacing of Sand Road, and for the year 2025 resurfacing project. T, return of escrow fees for the following applications: 2021-3, 2021-5, 2021-8, 2021-9, 2021-19, 2021-13, 2021-14, 2021-20. Finance Department Resolution U, authorization an increase to the 2025 temporary budget. V, authorizing 2025 appropriation reserve transfers under NJS 40A:4-59. Fire Department Resolution W, authorization to purchase and install radio equipment from Spectrum Communications in the amount of $5,698.80. X, authorization to purchase of equipment from Whitmer Public Safety Group in the amount of $6,807.12. Y, authorization to purchase fire hose from Municipal Emergency Services in the amount of $19,346.14. Item Z, authorization to purchase a laptop keyboard and case from CDWG in the amount of $2,070. Double A, authorization to purchase a dual-key asymmetric box from Knox Company for the fire chief's vehicle in the amount of $1,483. Fire Prevention Resolution Double B, authorization to hire Carlos M. Colon as part-time fire inspector, effective March 31st, 2025. Double C, authorization to purchase radio equipment from Spectrum Communications in the amount of $3,706.32. Double D, authorization to purchase a laptop and equipment and accessories from GTBM for the Fire Prevention Department in the amount of $4,648.62. Police Department Resolution Double E, authorization for physical exam of one SLEO 2 police officer from Hackensack Meridian Team Health in the amount of $1,200. Item double F, authorizing evaluation service of one police officer from the Institute of Forensic Psychology in the amount of $2,500. Double G, authorization to replace existing workstation for the LiveCam mugshot system from Clearview Data Systems in the amount of $2,727. Public Works Resolution Double H, authorization to amend Resolution 2025-121 for the purchase of computer equipment for the sewer department from CDWG in the amount of $1,400. Double I, authorization to repair DPW vehicle from Route 23 Auto Mall in the amount of $1,536.25. Double J, authorization to repair police vehicle number 405 from Route 43 Auto Mall in the amount of $3,201.85. Double K, authorization to repair water truck number 517 from Standard Springs in the amount of $6,062.40. Double L, authorization to repair street sweeper number 518 from Northeast Sweepers and Rentals in the amount of $4,899.10. Item double M, authorization to repair the River Edge lift station generator from GenServe in the amount of $6,615.96. Double N, authorization for maintenance and repair at the Recreation Building from A&C Plumbing and Heating in the amount of $2,181.82. Double O, authorization to purchase equipment from Core and Main in the amount of $1,686.84. Double P, authorization to purchase parts from Core and Main in the amount of $2,075. Double Q, authorization to purchase 6 new fire hydrants from Capital Supply Construction Products in the amount of $26,817.42. Double R, authorization to hire Janton Sakari as full-time repair person in the road department. I have tax collector resolution double S through double W as appears on the agenda. Municipal clerk resolution double X, authorization to submit the Governor's Council on Substance Use Disorder grant for the year 2026. Double Y, approval to renew a limousine license to a Class A car, Class Limo car service for the year 2025-2026. Double Z, approval to renew a limousine license to New Jersey Limo Bus for the year 2025-2026. Triple A, we don't usually get to triples, but Triple A, approval to renew a limousine license to America's Best Limousine for the year 2025-2026. Triple B, approval of a Tricky Tray raffle license number 2025-06 for the Parents Association of Pompton Plains Preschool on May 8th, 2025. Triple C, approval of an on-premise 50/50 raffle license number 2025-07 for the Parents Association of Pompton Plains Preschool on May 8th, 2025. Triple D, approval of an ordinance I'm sorry, approval of an
On-premise.
on-premise 50/50 license, 2025-08 for Unico of Fairfield on April 17th, 2025. And triple E, approval for an outdoor dining license for Waffles and Dreams, effective April 1st, 2025 to November 30th, 2025. If there are no questions, comments, or corrections, may I have a approval?
So moved.
Council President Campese, Councilman, was it McGlynn? Okay.
Council President Campese.
Aye.
Councilman McGlynn.
Aye.
Councilman Cifelli.
Aye.
Councilman LaForgia.
Aye.
Mayor Galise.
Aye. Okay. Joe?
Okay. Mr. McCluskey, our Chief Financial Officer, has certified that the funds are available. I'd like to make a motion to pay the bills in the amount of $5,564,778.75.
Second.
Councilman Cifelli.
Aye.
Council President Campese.
Aye.
Councilman McGlynn.
Aye.
Councilman LaForgia.
Aye.
Mayor Galise.
Aye. Okay, written communications, does anyone have any written
I
communications?
actually got a communication again from a resident on, not on Horse Neck Road, I believe, referring to tractor trailer traffic again. And, you know, they sent me pictures along with everything, you know, and they are pretty big. And they told me that the truck came down the road, made its deliveries and everything, and came right back through the residential area again. You know, it is a problem. It's something, I don't know, I guess we would have to take up with the county.
Yeah, that's a county road, we have to
Right.
talk to the county.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Councilman, it's a county road, and we've been down this path before, and I don't think the county, it's a regular route, so I don't think they're gonna ban the trucks.
right.
Because it's for that purpose, so I just think it's something we have to live with. We can talk to the county, but I doubt it. We've been down this road. They're not gonna not allow them to use a county road.
Okay. We could talk about it more, you know, on that.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay? All right.
Okay, anyone else have any written communications tonight? Unfinished business? New business?
Mayor, if I may?
Sure.
As everyone can see here, the parking lot of the municipal complex is being torn up, reconfigured, and improved. It impacts the day-to-day operation. We've moved some vehicles out of here to try and facilitate it as quickly as possible. But starting in April, on April 1st, the drop-off area for recycling on Tuesdays only will be closed. It will still be open on Saturdays from 8 to 12, but we're going to have to close it down on Tuesdays from April. The project is supposed to be completed by June 27th. It is a major project. There's retention basins being built. There's storm sewers being installed, new configuration, gas pumps, the whole 9 yards. So it is a major improvement to the township, and I appreciate everyone's patience during this time.
Yeah, good point, Jim.
There will be a notice going out
Yeah.
townwide.
Okay, we're gonna have a notice, but that will mean the recycling will be closed on Tuesdays.
Correct.
Okay. All right, that'll bring us to public comment session. Anyone wishing to comment, please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
Hello, everyone.
How we doing?
Oh, Aaron.
How are you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Good, good.
Okay.
Nice to see everyone again.
All right.
Congratulations, Council President. It's exciting.
Thank you, Aaron.
So yeah, I think we know why everyone's here, right? There's been some,
Aaron?
yeah.
Could you just put your name and address on the record? Thank you.
Oh yeah, Aaron Lowe, 72 Pier Lane. There've been some pretty shocking things that have been said, right, by the PBA recently. And I was a little upset, given, I read the contracts and, they're claiming 900 hours of time was paid. And, I know we went back and forth, we had our go around, and I was told very plainly, we don't use, the way you use funds is very appropriate, right? It's private road, it's public funds, all these things. It was a little shocking to try to do the math on 900 hours, 85 grand. That's not contractually allowed. It's the plain reading of the contract. And I started thinking, is this really what's in the best interest of the town, right? I see these guys all the time from work. I work with them, working all the time, no, breaks, ordered in. It's hard. It's hard. I don't know how many of you guys up here ever worked 16-hour shift. I've worked 24-hour shifts. It's awful. You don't see your family, you don't see your kids, and they're trying. But there's a lot of stuff that goes on in this town these days. Target, you could probably just put 2 of them there all day, right? But we have residents here. This town's gotten bigger, exponentially bigger. And, we got somebody murdered in this town. We have drugs, guns. We need them to be on their feet for their safety, for their own mental health. And then you're looking at someone who gets paid $197,000 a year under a contract with increases, gets paid 85 grand, allegedly. It's a lot of money. We could probably use that to, I don't know, pave roads, not take out debt. You guys just paid $5.5 million in bills. That's crazy. And I just don't understand how we got to this point, right? And how are we using funds? And if contracts are written and signed, they should be adhered to. It's very simple, right? Mr. Gasparini's contract allows for the personal use of a township vehicle. All well negotiated, all good. Chief Mana's doesn't. It says the use of. So I got to wondering, well, why is that different? Who's paying for gas? Who's paying for insurance? Public use of funds for private things, right? Can we, who's keeping track of this stuff? I don't know. These are all just questions I have. They're not accusations, they're questions. But I feel like it's up to all of you to represent us. What's in my best interest? What's in their best interest? That's what's important. Not who's getting paid, who's getting money. I mean, you can't hire cops. You guys just passed a resolution to raise their pay. If you were paying them enough, there'd be a line out the door. But they're all leaving. Three guys with the most experience in this department just left. One hired was here for 3 weeks? Gone. 2 more left. Who's coming in? Who's protecting my kids? Who's protecting all of their kids? Who's looking out for them? It's really unfortunate. And you've known a lot of these guys that work here. They've born and raised here. And I don't quite understand how the funds are just getting thrown around. It's a lot of money. A lot. And we pay a lot of money to the top 2 guys in this town. Almost 400 grand. Plus a $100,000 truck. Negotiated for, but that's a lot of money to spend on a truck. It's got lights in it. Drives it's nice. But, I mean, it doesn't even have municipal government plates on it. It's very confusing. But where's our money going? And I feel like it's up to you guys to, was it paid or was it not? Did he get the 900 hours? Did you guys pay it? No? Come on. This country just had an election trying to get rid of stuff like this. You guys are all Republicans, right? Some of you used to be Democrats, but that's okay. We like you now.
Yeah.
But but that's not what this town voted for. That's not what we want. It's a lot of money going out the door. The guys who are already making a lot of money. But we're paying cops, 41 grand a year? How do you live in this town on $41,000 a year? You don't. You want people to come in this town, work hard, protect the people. They want to be here. They want to enjoy working here. That's what it used to be. And I can't quite understand, I got a hard time. My grandmother got a hard time. We were talking about, 16 grand? But it seems to me we're just blowing money. And you can't even get a simple answer. It's a very simple question. If it's no, it's no. Then I'll sit down, I'll go home, and no big deal. But nobody can even answer it. It's unfortunate. It really is. This is not what this town was. It's not how this town should be. And I don't think anyone lives here so we can, ask our elected officials who we see in the park, we grew up together. We can't, a simple, yeah, Aaron, we did it. Or no, we didn't. Okay, cool. I don't know what's true. All I know is the inferences that people can draw based on the information that's put out there, which can be a very dangerous thing. And, I think just some simple answers, and be good to these guys and women. They work hard. Their mental health is important. Their time with their families is important. Their time with their kids is important. And how much money are we wasting on overtime? We got almost $100,000 already this year. And that, from what I saw, doesn't even include the sergeants, the corporals, the lieutenants, the one captain you got left, road jobs. I mean, we're just throwing money like we got it. It doesn't make any sense. At some point, it's got to stop. The gravy train runs out. You need guys in here or women that are going to work hard. They want to be here for a respectable salary. And, next time you negotiate with these guys, maybe don't nickel and dime them on a PBA contract when we're throwing money all over the place. They deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to be heard, please come forward. Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public comment session. Somebody coming forward?
Good evening. I'm Matt Carleo. I'm the delegate for West Essex PBA Local 81. My address.
I'm sorry, could you just turn the microphone on, please? Is there a green button?
Got it. Thank you. Again, my name is Matt Carleo. I'm the delegate for West Essex Local PBA 81. My address is 471 Oak Ave, Maywood, New Jersey. So for those of you on the council who are not aware, on January 20th of this year, Chief Manna introduced a new set of minimum required standards for the patrol division. Chief Manna's directive focused on raising the manpower minimums to 5 officers and directs each officer to stop a minimum of 6 cars per shift. I could provide a plethora of different statistics that could boast the argument that Chief Manna's managerial decisions should be amended or eliminated altogether. However, focusing on the data is the sole reason why we're here to begin with. The truth of the matter is the memorandum turned the membership from people into commodities. They become a means to an end. Chief Manna has completely stopped caring about the journey and now only cares about the destination. We see higher numbers in car stops and civilian interactions, where truthfully this is not doing anything to make the community safer. Chief Manna has completely removed the human being from the equation. He fails to recognize the men and women who are the driving force behind this data. It begins and ends with them. How we've gotten to this point is concerning. We grossly neglect the fact that raising the minimum manpower standards to 5 officers has forced the membership to face 16-hour work days, only to go home and probably have to come back for more. By doing so, Chief Manna has worked them to their limits, and now the men and women are burnt out. They are so tired that being present in their home lives feels exhausting. All they can do is worry about going back to an environment that only brings them stress and anxiety. By keeping that work due to the raised minimum standards and the overly abundant mandated overtime, they've lost their work-life balances entirely. The mental hardship these officers face because they aren't home to support their families, spend time with their kids, see their parents, or go out to dinner with their friends is excruciating. I lost my mother when I was 25 years old. I saw her fight an unbeatable cancer for 2 years. It was tough for me to face. It was a lot to see, but it taught me so much. It molded me into the man I am today. It allowed me to be there for my mother like she was for me when I was a child. The point being, I was there. I had work-life balance. To think that could have been stripped away from me because of a memorandum is not only frightening, it's disappointing. Council, these Fairfield officers are human beings. You know them. You know their families. You have been together through highs and lows. They have always been there for the community, and now they need you. They need you to step up and lead. These officers love this town, and now they need your help to bring back common sense solutions to this police department. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
meeting be without me putting in 2 cents, all right?
Just
I'm
state your
Dr.
name and
Paul-
address for the record, please.
Dr. Paul Scolo, 32 Jorgensen Lane, Fairfield, New Jersey. Gail, this should take about 2 minutes, time me, all right? Thanks to the chief, captains, lieutenants, sergeants, and the men and women on patrol. Fairfield PD is our last and first line of defense. I hear talk of trouble in the FFPD. This troubles me. I hope all sides can resolve this tonight. A brief personal story. On election day, I was bow hunting and I slipped from my tree stand. My hero, my son Paul, came and got me home. He called the police. My wife and son did not get the officer's name. He did convince me to go to St. Joe's Hospital via the ambulance that he had called. He seemed familiar to me. I may have treated him years ago for a foot problem, but I can't recall his name. If he's here tonight, I'd like to meet him and thank him. I broke 7 ribs. My right shoulder had a concussion and a brain bleed. His convincing me to go to the hospital most definitely saved my life. I have a block watch that I've formed for a couple of years. Please consider making a block watch, make Fairfield safer, all right? I'm updating mine now. I'm proud of the chief all the way down to the men and women on patrol. God bless you all. Bravo every day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Pat Paparo. I'm the Vice President from the New Jersey State PBA in charge of labor relations. I don't pay taxes here. I don't live here. I visit here, and that's all. So I'm not coming here with any demands. I don't come here to yell and scream or to bash anyone at the same time. As a police officer, we're in a business of customer service. In the current climate, we're forced to think first, act second, even if it puts our own safety at risk. What we're doing here by putting our officers on 16-hour shifts is we're overworking everyone, okay? Right now, to this point, we have 855 hours of forced overtime. It's a problem. At this point last year, we had 155 hours. I'm sorry, it was 835 hours forced and 155 last year. That's an increased cost of $40,000 that the taxpayers are paying. Again, I'm not here to make demands. All I'm asking, what I'm begging you, is to look at the policies that have been put into place. Think about the safety of our residents, of our visitors like me, the officers, everyone included. I suppose I'm going to plead to our town attorney, Mr. Miller. The true form of labor relations is being able to sit across the table from each other and work something out without a third party being involved. I'm not here to bash the chief. I'm not here to be one-sided. I'm saying we need to sit down at a table and work this out. It doesn't need to go any farther. We can handle what's in our own backyard. Please think about the cost, not just the financial cost, but the cost of these officers to their family. Think about what could happen to any of the residents. That's all I'm asking. Please, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is this on? Am I good? I'm Lee Sutherland. I'm the state delegate for the Essex County Sheriff's Office, PBA 183, 50 West Market Street, 2nd floor, Newark, New Jersey. I just want to touch on 2 things. Obviously, you guys saw the recent events that we had to deal with down in the city of Newark. And all these men and women behind me, I would say out of all of them, about 90% were at that funeral. That young man was murdered in cold blood. The only way that you keep them safe is hiring more people. You need more cops on the street. How in the world would you expect anyone to want to come work for the Township of Fairfield when they see a vote of no confidence? As a rookie officer, the last thing you want to do is go to a department that there's clearly infighting going on, and then go there and start your career to what? Just pick up and leave? You had a captain, you had a pillar of Essex County law enforcement, Frank Tracy, who has trained me personally and has probably trained all these guys behind us. He left. John McNish, another pillar of your department. This has got to be alarming to you guys. Has to be. You're a 45-man department, you just lost 6 people? That's a lot of people for a small department. There needs to be changes. There needs to be things looked into here. And the ultimate goal is officer safety. The only way you keep your officers safe is manpower, giving them times with their family, and by hiring. But you're never going to be able to hire anybody. You will not be able to hire anyone with everything going on right now. No one's going to want to come and work here. And that's terrible because I'll tell you, I work for the sheriff's office, I work in the patrol division, and I work side by side with these guys. You got some of the best officers in the world back here. But you know as well as I do, because most of you have been on this board for a while, there have been shootings here too. And by the grace of God, nothing's happened to any of our people. I don't want to go to another funeral. You should never want to go to that. It was the most spectacular and worst day of my life. Going there and seeing a sea of blue to bury one of our own. We don't want to see that happen ever again in Essex County. Decisions need to be made, a sit down needs to happen, and this needs to get worked out. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mayor, may I before the chief?
Absolutely.
Is that all right, chief? Thank you. Before I start, how many residents are here tonight? Okay, thank you. 5, 6, okay. Mr. Lepari? No, Paparo. Paparo. Mr. Paparo, you're exactly right. You have to sit down and you have to talk, okay? And Mr. Lowe, Aaron, I don't know where you are. You're exactly right also. Inferring can lead to assumptions and misinformation. So I'm just gonna read something that I put together today because I live in this town too. I came here a long time ago in 1986, and I love this town. And every one of those guys sitting in the back row, they're our guys, they're our community, and they know, every one of them know, I've always backed them. So let me just put out what I want to put out. Ever since I was young, I always admired police officers and firemen. As I grew older, all first responders and the military personnel had my admiration and gratitude. In my public life from 2007 to date, I, along with my colleagues sitting up here, have always backed the blue. In fact, a few years ago, when the world was against the blue, I sat in that chair and publicly backed the blue. Whenever there was an issue or a difference of opinion, it was worked out through proper procedures and conversation. Last year, when negotiating the new PBA agreement, I had heard that there were those who were complaining about an abundance of overtime. I sit on that negotiating committee. So the township and the chief proposed a solution, and some on the PBA negotiating team adamantly opposed it, even though it would not affect them in a negative manner whatsoever. Then came a proposal to raise the starting salary for police officers and adjust the salaries of anyone who would be harmed in the salary guide, which would need PBA concurrence. The PBA concurred with the proposal through a vote. Yes, the chief sent the correspondence to all PBA members expressing his thoughts about moving the department forward and the vote that was taken. I have read that correspondence and was quite surprised when a letter of no confidence was written against the chief, especially if it was based on his correspondence. However, this is what happens when perhaps bad advice is received from others. I found it hard to believe that there's a lack of confidence for a chief who recommended most of you at hire and who assigned and promoted you to the positions you hold today. Yes, there was a vote. But let's not kid ourselves that there wasn't an underlying feeling that I better vote the way of my peers. There always is, whether it's in your field, at a meeting, at a club, wherever it is. Nobody wants to stand up for what's right. So the letter is sent. Of course it must have been humiliating to the chief. Who wouldn't be? Not sure what was expected to be accomplished by this. Next came a threatening anonymous letter that was forwarded to the proper authorities. One would think that the PBA would have reached out to the chief to have a discussion before it even got this far. You guessed it, no dialogue. Now that the PBA sees this going nowhere, they decide to put it on social media. And this is the beginning of the circus. That was Act 1. Now, just for the record, I have personally reached out 3 times to sit down and have a discussion between the PBA and the chief with myself in the room. The chief agreed to meet each time. The PBA responded the first 2 times no, and the last time I was told that their attorney told them no way unless he was present. Why is that? Especially when we had already agreed that anything said could not be used for litigation by either side. Now it's time for Act 2, where an Instagram post filled with a slanted story is circulated. Now just bear with me because I'm going to go through the story. I'm sure you all saw the Instagram post. Starts with page 1. Fairfield residents, we need your help. The police department is in shambles and it cannot be hidden any longer. Very sensational. Good page. Then we go to Fairfield Police, vote no confidence versus Chief Manna. I already spoke about this before. Now we get into the retirements and the people who've left. Captain Daniel Diaz, 26 years, eligible for retirement. Lieutenant John McNish, 25 years, eligible for retirement. Lieutenant Frank Tracy, disability retirement. Officer David DiCarlo, left to go to the state police. Always wanted to be in the state police, a real military guy. Officer Katrina Guevara, she moved to be closer to her home so when she starts a family. And Officer Brianna Zucchelli, she didn't like the profession. She's out of the academy. She tried it for 2 weeks and moved on. On that note, Pete Pollock, you're in the back. How you doing, Pete? Good to see you again. Always considered you a friend. 26 years, he retired. Steve Filippo, Rich Filippo, 25 years, he retired. That's what people do when they reach their age. If they can retire, and you all know this, why wouldn't you? You get a nice pension, you're young, you move on to something else, and you're almost doubling your income. Now, we're talking about the people who left, right? Okay, so the people we hired. Johnny Scrivo came from the sheriff's department. They got an issue there? Is that why he left? He came here. John Cangro, he came here. Total, Little Falls. Is there an issue there too? Is there no confidence vote there? You guys move around, you know that. You can't just put something out on a piece of paper on Instagram and expect people to believe it. Tell the whole story. Tell the story and then we will listen. And people will listen and people can make an informed decision. Now let's move on. The next page is Fairfield's losing 3 of its command staff. We just went through that. Again, it's a sensational page. Grabs attention. Now we move on to, since the vote, minimums have been raised, causing high amounts of overtime. Officers are burned out, 16-hour days are normal, no days off are normal. I don't know if this is true. Yes, they do work 16 hours, okay? Absolutely, I agree. However, do you think it's because we're banging out at 3 in the morning because we don't want to work the night shift and most of the overtime is put in at 3 to 7 and we have to call people in? Is that something that maybe could be resolved amongst themselves? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Then we put out this piece. This page, really, I love this page. Burned out officers not only affects officer safety, but it directly impacts the safety of the town and our residents. Hope the criminals aren't reading this. Well, why would you put that on there if you're hoping they're not reading it? Again, a sensational page. Chief Manna's contract spells out he shall not be paid for any unused vacation time. In that same contract, he was paid out over 900 hours of vacation time. I'm here to answer the question, Aaron. Yes, he was. And the PBA, who has the same thing, was paid out over 3,390 hours. Because what we do is, when we have a surplus, we'll pay it down. okay? Because you owe the money anyway. So we pay it down. Well, I'll get to that in a minute, Aaron. That's this. That's that, okay. Over 900 vacation hours, we just talked about that. The highest paid Fairfield police officer works off-duty road jobs. Okay, and? What's the issue there? I don't know what the issue is. He's allowed to work them, right? Now, I see some people out there shaking their heads, so I'm gonna go over the other guys that work them, okay? I'm not gonna name them, but I'm gonna tell you they're high-ranking officials. 174 hours, 173 and a half, 169, 167. They're all high. What we only call out the chief? We're gonna call out everybody? Because the list goes on and on. Got another page here I just want to go over with you. Where is it? Oh, I can do it this way. It says Chief Manna worked 176 and a half hours in 2023, and on the next page it says, how's he have time to lead and manage? Because he works 2,080 hours at a minimum, right? Just like everybody else that has the off-duty jobs, right? You all work 2080. So he doesn't have time to manage? And let's do the math on that. I think he's got plenty of time to manage. I'll tell you, it's disgusting, it really is, because I sat here for a long time, and you guys, I still love you. But what you're doing to the town and yourselves, you're destroying yourselves. So now we get through all that with the Instagram. Then the final circus act. While I'm sitting next to my dying mother on Saturday, I'm being sent videos of an outsider driving through our community in a signboard box truck trying to round up support for tonight's meeting. Worked out pretty good, didn't it? Got a lot of cops here. Where's the residents? First and foremost, it's no way to resolve whatever the issue may be, and it's a black eye on this community, and it's a black eye on the police, men and women in our police department. The question remains, support for what? If there's no dialogue other than the nonsense that I just described, how do you plan on communicating? Now, so that is crystal clear to everyone, the governing body, this mayor and council, has no role under state law to run the day-to-day operation of this police department. That is solely the responsibility of the chief. My only recommendation, and I've been giving it to you guys for a long time, is for the PBA to act like the professionals that I know they are, and to sit down, like this gentleman said, and have an honest and open discussion of whatever it is you feel that needs to be addressed. I'm there for you. You know that. I've been around a long time. My door's always open. I'm willing to sit down with everybody. I don't want to see this go on. I don't want to live in a community like this. It's disgusting. So let's get together, let's sit down and do what we have to do. We're all professional people here. Let's get it done. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you
And
for
you
the
know,
answers.
we all read the no confidence letter, and believe me, to me, it was less than compelling. Chief Manna has been instrumental in bringing this department to the high level of effectiveness that it has enjoyed for years. There are procedures to follow, and driving a circus truck around town is not one of them. Creating that kind of atmosphere is no way to bring criticism to someone. So let me say, maybe last, I have confidence in Chief Manna. I have the confidence that he will run the department to achieve what we all want, the security and safety of the residents of this town. And let's put that to bed.
For anyone who wants to follow along with these, there are handouts out there. You're more than welcome to get them. They're the same exhibits. Thank you. Chief Anthony Mann of the Fairfield Police Department. Good evening. It is truly unfortunate that I have literally been forced to come to a meeting of the governing body to publicly air the business of the Fairfield Police Department, but more importantly, in having to defend my reputation as a chief of police and a dedicated law enforcement professional. I also believe that anyone who needs to use this forum to support their position without first speaking about the issues with me is doing a disservice to everyone involved, including our community. I would have preferred to keep what I will talk about this evening within the walls of the department and amongst the township officials. But because a few select individuals who purport to represent the entire PBA Local 81 chose to do this in public, then that's where we will do this. In doing so, I will provide the public with facts, not falsehoods, truth, not sensationalized innuendo. I have been around way too long and have given back way too much to have anyone intimidate me or disparage my dedication and service to this department, this township, and the law enforcement profession. When I first discovered that the PBA took to social media and encouraged people to attend tonight's meeting to find out the truth about what's going on in the Fairfield Police Department, I was actually pleased because I was looking forward to the opportunity to tell the truth. When all of this first began in November, I was contacted by so many supporters asking me, what's going on? People in this profession and within this community know who I am and know what I'm about. They knew there had to be a flip side to the coin. So when I was able to explain that all I was trying to do was enforce accountability and structure to this department, they completely understood. So I am happy to do the same for all of you tonight. The PBA has chosen to defend what I believe is an untenable position. They must defend why officers should not be made to patrol every street in town and do it better. Why officers shouldn't have to make car stops. Why officers shouldn't be permitted to congregate in headquarters at the same time for extensive periods of time, leaving no one on the road. Why they shouldn't be made to use their radios as their primary communications method, and on and on. That is what this is truly about. So when you cannot defend your position, you must then have to attack through innuendo and false information. It's easy to throw rocks when you're part of a mob. It's much harder to find solutions that work. I can tell you the smear campaign that was waged by PBA Local 81 on their social media platform against me wasn't very pleasing to me or my family, given I too am a PBA member. But that will be dealt with in a separate legal course of action in the future, and I can assure you that those responsible will be personally held accountable. I do, however, want to thank my family for being here tonight to support me. I love them all and thank them for everything they have and still endure because of my professional obligations. Now, I can tell you that countless numbers of residents, business owners, chiefs of police, and rank-and-file law enforcement officers have contacted me and wanted to be here tonight to show their support and solidarity with me. But I told each and every one of them to not come tonight because filling a room with supporters doesn't change, correct, or most importantly, put you on the right side of an issue. I do not need anyone to support me as to why accountability and structure must be enforced in the Fairfield Police Department and why naturally it would be met with resistance. But I realize that if sometime in the future anyone needs me to fill this or any other room with supporters, I can gladly do so, and I know they will gladly attend. I apologize in advance if my time here at the podium is long, but there are myriad complicated issues that need to be addressed for the benefit of all to understand, and because my law enforcement reputation is at stake. I will start with my background. For those who may not know me, I was born and raised in Fairfield, and you could say I've been associated with this community my entire life. I served in the volunteer fire department for 10 years and as a part-time fire inspector, and am or was a member of many civic associations. This year I began my 40th year of service as a Fairfield police officer, 8 as chief of police, and before that approximately 18 months as the officer in charge. I am a proud graduate of the 242nd session of the FBI National Academy. I currently serve on the executive board of the Essex County Chiefs of Police Association and as a vice president on the executive board of the New Jersey State Association of Chiefs of Police. I would be completely remiss if I did not state from the outset that this group of Fairfield police officers are amongst the best that the law enforcement profession has from a reactive perspective. They are amongst the best trained, have saved countless lives, responded routinely to horrific emergencies, and tracked down criminals as well as anyone. But reactive police work does not encompass all that a police officer is required to do. Proactive police work is just as essential, and that is where we need improvement. On any given shift, an officer's duties can be split into two categories, reactive and proactive. Reactive is when officers respond to calls for service. Proactive is them actively looking for lawbreakers, patrolling neighborhoods, and engaging in community policing. On busy days, reactive police work could be 70 to 80%, which means proactive police work should be in the 20 to 30% range. How about on shifts when reactive work only amounts to 10 to 20%? On such days, should officers not be expected to be proactive in the 80 to 90% area? Or should they just be allowed to take it easy because there are no calls for service that day? The PBA is established as a union to represent the best and true interests of its members, which is absolutely a necessary function, not to advance any political agendas. I believe in unions and the protections they afford their members, and I have and still support PBA Local 81. The chief of police position and duties are established by statute and the local governing body to represent not only the interests of the employer, but most importantly, I represent the interests of the citizens and business owners of the town as it relates to public safety, ensuring they get what their tax dollars should get them, the best and the most from their police department. The document that officially governs the relationship between the PBA and the township to include the chief of police is the collective bargaining agreement that is a legal and binding contract negotiated between the PBA and the township, and which is now being strictly adhered to. The authority and responsibility that is vested in the chief of police is statutory and requires the chief to be the head of the police force, and that they shall be directly responsible to the appropriate authority for the efficiency and routine day-to-day operations thereof. Administer and enforce rules and regulations and special emergency directives for the disposition and discipline of the force and its officers and personnel. Have exercise and discharge the functions, powers, and duties of the force. Prescribe the duties and assignments of all subordinates and other personnel. Delegate such authority as they may deem necessary for the efficient operation of the force to be exercised under their direction and supervision. It appears that somewhere along the line, our officers seem to have forgotten that it is the mandate, indeed the statutory obligation, of the chief of police to set policy for the department. And it is the mandate of the command staff, supervisory staff, and officers to carry it out. So what I've been trying to do this whole time is enforce the same accountability that exists in most every police department. Inherently, there will be times when differences between the parties occur, and when they do, in almost all police departments, they are handled by the PBA representative, bringing their concerns to the chief and working out some mutual solution. But that did not happen here, and it's truly curious to me as to why it didn't. But I will speak more about that as I go on. Like all police departments, the Fairfield Police Department is a paramilitary organization with a rank structure, a chain of command, a need for adherence to orders and directives, the need for accountability, and if necessary, the imposition of discipline. Historically speaking, the majority of officers that have comprised the department have possessed the traits of being self-motivating, professional, friendly, community-oriented, both reactive and proactive, team-oriented, trustworthy, dedicated, and brave. This is what our community has come to expect from us. If any of these traits are relaxed, it impacts on the department's entire mission and its entire success. In the past, when officers veered off track, they needed only to be spoken to, sometimes by supervisors, but often by their coworkers, for that behavior to be corrected. Peer-on-peer discussions always went a long way. In those days and days after, there was respect for the authority of supervisors, command officers, and especially the chief. When they told us to go on the road and do enforcement, we did in compliance with our strict allegiance to our law enforcement sworn obligation. When they said don't be in headquarters at the same time, we weren't. When they said don't get out of the car without your hat, we didn't. That is because we knew that our supervisors and command staff officers were not reluctant to impose discipline on us in order to get our compliance, and they were not fearful of disciplining a coworker who they might also consider as a friend. It was their job to do that and to get compliance. Somewhere along the way in Fairfield, that changed. The officers in my day would never put our supervisors, our friends, in a position to have to discipline us. We obeyed their direction and went to work. In those days, we didn't need supervisors or the chief to tell us how many motor vehicle stops we needed to make on a shift, because we would have far exceeded any number that they would have set. It wasn't about doing just the minimum. It was about doing what was right, protecting the community, and because it is, what we wanted to do. We didn't need anyone else to motivate us to do our jobs. We motivated ourselves and just did them. And when officers repeatedly called out sick and or took time off that continually forced other officers to be ordered into work, we needed no one to handle that issue but ourselves. But that methodology has been gone for a long time. When I first took command of the police department, my leadership style involved being fair, progressive, motivating, and looking to get people to work because they wanted to, not because they had to. In essence, the carrot, not the stick. I knew from my years of experience, officers were looking for greater opportunities in a small police department where promotion and or assignment could take a while and stagnation could set in. I wanted to do all I could to raise morale and have everyone feel they were part of the department. So I'm going to put up something that is the first thing that I accomplished. If you can follow along, it basically says the creation of opportunity. And I want to go through that a little bit because when times are good, there's no complaints. So I reorganized the table of organization to be able to promote from basically 3 people in the command staff to 2 captains and 5 lieutenants. Okay? 4 officers at that time were also promoted to corporal. I established an administrative section and assigned 3 officers who worked steady day shift Monday through Friday to handle all of the administrative duties of the police department and trying to give them, because they were senior, a benefit of that. I established a professional standards unit to make sure that we were accountable and that body-worn cameras and activities of officers were reviewed. Once again, 2 people assigned to it, Monday through Friday day shift. I established a special enforcement unit for all the senior officers and the senior supervisor who would work Monday through Friday and do selective traffic enforcement, which, again, people denied or didn't want to even go for promotion because they were so happy with working that schedule. I assigned people for the first time in our history, 3 separate officers at 3 separate times to the DEA task force, for which countless experience was gained and stagnation limited. I assigned full-time officers to the New Jersey State Auto Theft Task Force for the exact same reason, and to the Essex County Anti-Crime Task Force. I established an emergency response team of 9 officers who are specially trained in tactics and swift water rescue, just so they would have some specialization. They train monthly and do good work. I established a drone unit where 11 officers are now trained in how to operate our drone and, again, opportunity. I revamped our honor guard at their request to buy 10 uniforms at probably $10,000 through our police foundation so that they could appear at various events, to include games, Giants games, Jets games, for which they were able to stay and watch. No complaints then. I established a motorcycle unit, the first one in our history, and assigned 2 officers to it. Again, no complaints then. Here are just the training opportunities I've given. So if you want to follow along, it's the training opportunities section. Tell me where else this happens, because I don't know any department where it does. I sent 3 officers to an executive leadership training abroad in England and Ireland with the New Jersey State Association of Chiefs of Police. None of them were chiefs. As a matter of fact, one was a sergeant. But they had the opportunity to experience that at no cost to the township because it was paid out of either our forfeiture or foundation funds. I sent 3 officers to Arizona to attend the National Field Trainings Officers Conference. Not something I had to do. I felt it was the right thing to do. They work hard and I wanted to reward them. I send every year members of the emergency response team to the New York State Tactical Officers Association training, where they get to spend about 3 or 4 days learning things, but enjoying the camaraderie of other tactical officers. I allowed for an officer to teach bias and diversity instruction for police recruits, not only at the New Jersey State Police Academy, which was a feather in the cap of that officer because you hardly have anyone but troopers teaching there, but also in New York State, and gave him the time to do it. I had one of our motorcycle operators, who I didn't have to do this for, become a Maryland State Police motor officer instructor, taking a 2-week course in Bergen County. Once again, no complaints about that. I was integral in having 2 officers teach ABLE and ICAT instruction, as the one officer said, to everyone in the county once a week, 2 officers for 9 months. No problem with that. I've let officers go to the New Jersey State League Conference in Atlantic City, the New Jersey Narcotics Enforcement Officers Association Conference in Atlantic City, and rewarding the person who made the most narcotics arrests to go to that. I sent an officer to the FBI Command Leadership course for a week or 2, I don't remember the exact. And everyone usually puts in for 1 day to attend the New Jersey State Association's Police Expo in Atlantic City, and I can't tell you how many people were permitted to go. Let's do the last one. General items. I established the Fairfield Police Foundation, which you would think would get a ton of support from officers to attend and help with it, because it raised over $800,000 since its inception and helped to buy patrol rifles to protect them, helped to send them to training, bought all kinds of equipment. But you would think that, that didn't do anything. No one complained about when that stuff was gotten for them. I established the National Night Out community event where our officers had the ability to interact with our citizenry. Unfortunately, last year, because of what was going on in the department, we could not have that event for the first time since I took over as an officer, and not during the COVID pandemic. I can't tell you how many people, since I've taken over as chief, I've sent to the Police Unity Tour and allowed them time to go as their assignment. Last year, 9 officers were permitted to go. Special Olympic Snowball, so that I would switch shifts so they could play and not have to use time to do it. The New Jersey LGBTQ Law Enforcement Liaison Group. I hosted a meeting here that was paid for by the Fairfield Police Foundation, and I've given officers time to go to various events to promote that cause. I was hailed by its 2 leaders as being very progressive in allowing that to occur, because most didn't. I've initiated the automated license plate reader program by trying to put a blanket of license plate readers to protect our officers and our community, so they're alerted to the presence of stolen cars so they don't get put in a position where they might be compromised. And I put in place an officer health and wellness program where basically I allowed officers on duty to go and get cardiopulmonary screenings, not having to use any time, do it while you're on duty, and get an eye exam, and your day is done. Go home. Nobody complained about that. So how did we get to this point? With entitlement and comfort already setting in, we moved circa to 2020 and the COVID-19 pandemic as the catalyst, for sure. During that time, we directed officers not to be proactive, but rather reactive, as we did not want to have more contact with the public than was absolutely necessary, as we need to have officers available to answer calls. But as we got further away from the end of the pandemic, it was noticeable that personnel were still operating in a comfort, entitled, and reactive mindset. And as chief of police, I had the obligation to stop it. Like the CEO of any company in America, when productivity is high and the company is running well, you are more apt to overlook items because times are good and the service you are providing meets or exceeds the standards. But when productivity declines, the service is not as good, and costs are rising without more production, then the CEO needs to analyze why this might be occurring and correct it. Then you are not so likely to overlook workers who are not performing to standards. This review came towards the end of 2023, and I knew that then that I would need to change the course of this department. The first glimpse of this change was presented at my annual department meeting. Normally, you're all invited to that meeting. As our Police Foundation members, a number of people are invited to attend because I want to highlight the great work of our officers. But in 2024, I closed this meeting to everyone except department members, as I wanted to share my feelings of disappointment in their proactive policing, and I wanted to do it privately. I tried to motivate them to do better and told them about the comfort and entitled feeling I was seeing. I guess no supervisor or command staff officer ever spoke to them in that manner. Right then and there, I could tell they were not happy with my plan to enforce accountability to better serve our community, and I would be met with resistance. I began to draft my new directive and presented it to my executive staff sometime in March 2024, which outlined a number of commands to install greater accountability and, more importantly, return mandated proactivity to our officers so that our community got the police services it deserved. I challenge anyone to truly say that this did not relate to operational improvements and better service to the public, to include officers not congregating inside and not staying in for periods of time and patrolling every street in their zone and using the radio as primary communications. At that time, my executive staff was against me issuing the memo because the PBA was involved in contract negotiations with the township and they felt it might hurt morale. One command staff officer said to me, and I'm paraphrasing, that we really don't have the problem with our officers that other departments do. We don't have guys involved in criminal activity or doing other things that result in discipline or get them in trouble. Basically making an excuse why I shouldn't put people to accountable because they're doing the right thing as a cop. That's something we swore to do. It doesn't change the proactivity. I told these command staff officers that, I was told by these command staff officers that they would handle what was brought to their attention and would speak with supervisors and officers so that the items contained in my proposed directive would be addressed on a voluntary compliance basis. In monitoring the situation, I noticed only negligible improvement and only for a short period of time. Then again, in June or July, my directive was reviewed by the township's labor attorney and was approved for issuance. I then held a meeting with PBA Local 81 President Dan Moran, Fairfield detective, and Fairfield's PBA representative, Detective Nicholas Kochi, to make them aware of the contents of the memorandum for their review and comments. After reading the memo, I had a conversation with both, advising them that I was still hoping that officers would voluntarily comply with the provisions of the memo, and if they could help with that by speaking with personnel to avoid the need for a formal directive. It should be noted that from that day forward, no PBA official ever came to see me at any time to voice any concerns or to discuss it any further, which they were welcome to do. Unfortunately, the memorandum was again not issued due to the diagnosis received by Detective James Champy. Unfortunately, Detective Champy passed away in September, and since the year was almost over and all of us were mourning his loss, in early October, I made the decision that I would implement the new directive as part of the annual squad changes that are conducted at the start of each year as a new initiative in 2025. All of this took place well prior to the PBA's no confidence vote against me, but I'm relatively sure that this directive was looming and it absolutely played a role in that. Coincidentally, my call for accountability at the start of 2024 coincided with new policies set by our administrator, which enforced the provisions found in the collective bargaining agreement as it related to officers being able to accumulate more than 100 hours of compensatory time at any time. Once again, because someone was choosing to hold officers accountable, it was predictably not well received. Now I'm going to talk about our stats between comparison between 2023 and 2024.
This leg is coming down.
This leg came down.
Thank you, Bush.
All right. There you go.
These are basically call case comparisons, okay, for 2023 and 2024. What you will notice is, from a call activity perspective, there was a 13% decline from the year before. 911 emergency calls, there was an 8% decline. And case activity, officers taking reports, there was a 5% decrease. What that says to me is, since our calls for service were down, our reactive policing was down, it would increase the proactive policing. But that was not the case. Here's our proactive policing stats between 2023 and 2024. What does it show us here? Well, DUI arrests, they were down by 47%. Arrests total were down by 20%. Summonses were down by 58%. And motor vehicle stops and traffic details were down by 54%. During 2024, from a disciplinary, reprimand, and counseling perspective, a total of 5 letters of reprimand and 11 counseling letters were issued in 2024. And I'm saying this for a reason. Please note that counseling letters are not even considered disciplinary in nature. They are simply a means to document a corrective behavior. So out of all those 16 pieces of discipline or counseling, you know how many were initiated by me? All but 1. So all the time when I'm asking people to take corrective action, it's falling to me. So obviously, I'm going to bear the burden of it. But that's changing. Now, let's get to the chief's memo that everyone spoke about, because I do want to talk about this. If you were the owner of a business, or even a worker at a business, and you were expected to do something, or if your bottom line was starting to see that your employees weren't doing the right thing, in the private sector, people get fired for that. It doesn't happen in the public sector. It takes a little time to do that. Not that I advocate it. I'm not saying that at all. Please don't misjudge what I say. But what I'm saying is, I had to put simplistic, basic stuff that any person who is in the law enforcement profession would say, that's what the chief is asking you to do, and that's what you're objecting to? It's not moving a piano from the 6th floor to the 1st floor by yourself. It's stuff that happens in every police department. So let's start with report writing. Now, this one was not even me looking at reports, because I hardly see reports in my job. It was brought to my attention by 2 command staff officers who were tasked with final review of reports. They brought it to me. So, of course, I had to take action because they didn't. This is one of the most important things that an officer does. For some of you who may not be aware, report writing is critical to ensure that arrests will result in convictions, not dismissals. And because cross-examination is only effective when an officer writes an adequate report. Frequency deficiencies were brought to my attention by a command staff officer that was tasked with reviewing these reports. And this is what he told me. Some officers seem not to be able to write cohesive reports. And I said, which ones? We'll send them to report writing school. Reports often have important details missing. Reports are cut and pasted from prior reports, but the names from the prior report were left in the new report, making it not sensible as, why is this person? He wasn't even there. Reports are not spell checked or sometimes formatted properly. And funny, officers and supervisors, so there's 2 levels before we get a command staff review. The officer's supposed to read it. It goes to his supervisor for another check to make sure the cause and everything is there. And then it goes to a command staff person for a final look over. If they had read the report, meaning the officer and the line supervisor, they would have seen examples where the officer's rough notes were still in the report. So if you read it, it was just a blob of information, not reading as a cohesive report. That indicates to me they don't care about their work product, and that had to be corrected. Since the implementation of this, I'm sorry, now we'll go to zone coverage. So I don't know, doesn't every citizen and business owner deserve to see a police car go through their neighborhoods at least twice a day? I think so, and many of our citizens have told me as much. Greater police presence helps to deter crime, but that can't happen if officers don't go out on the road. Citizens have told me in 2024 how they hadn't seen a police car in their neighborhoods in person, but more importantly, we have Ring technology, so people can see the cars that go past their house. And I tried to emphasize this to officers. It's not because in the old days, what we would say was, hey, you know what? Maybe they went by when you were inside or you were sleeping. But that's not the case anymore. They can see every car that goes by. So I had to put into, and it's unacceptable to me that no one goes past streets because when we went to check the GPS mapping that each car is equipped with, we saw streets that weren't patrolled. So what had to happen? I had to put in a directive that says officers are required to make sure they patrol every street in their zone at least once during their shift unless the call volume is high. So if they're busy, I understand. But if they're not busy, they need to go past those streets. It's not hard. It may take an hour. The department's GPS system is checked daily now. If anyone does not see this, and I'm saying this to the public, if anyone does not see these deterrent-driven police actions happening in their neighborhoods, call me directly. Officers are now required to patrol at a minimum 50 miles during the day shift and 75 miles at night. Once again, provided that they aren't on calls and aren't busy. I understand that, and I check that all the time now. So I'm taken away from some of my administrative duties to conduct oversight that should be being done on a routine basis. It will get corrected. Since the implementation of this directive, I cannot adequately tell you how many residents spoke with me to ask if anything was wrong as they were seeing police cars in their neighborhoods more frequently. Traffic enforcement and traffic details. When a citizen asks what they think police officers in a town our size do most often, invariably people say traffic enforcement. But this effective proactive law enforcement activity, which helps to deter crime and dangerous driving that puts all of our citizens at risk, became virtually non-existent. Now officers are required to make a certain number of traffic stops on their shifts, again, provided they weren't busy on something else. But please understand, they are and have full discretion on the enforcement action they take, whether it be a summons or now I'm requiring a written warning so that I can track what violations our officers are actually stopping people for. Officers are now directed to run specific traffic details in targeted areas for a longer period of time in order to get better compliance with the law in areas that the public complains about. Councilman McGlynn, I know I heard about the Horseneck Road today with the trucks. It was you that brought that to our attention. We conducted radar twice a day for 45 minutes for 2 months on Horseneck Road. Have we slowed people down? Absolutely we have, because I've traveled on Horseneck Road and found people slow right down because they think there's going to be the presence of a police officer. We've now moved that detail, and I have no problem telling you, to Pier Lane, to try to slow people down on Pier Lane, and we will do that for 2 months. Since the implementation of this directive, I can tell you that so many members of the public have noticed the increased enforcement along Route 46 and other areas. Again, serving as a deterrent. Seeing a proactive police department makes people go somewhere else. Idling and loafing in headquarters. It is unfortunate that officers were of the opinion that it was all right to all eat meals inside of headquarters at the same time, leaving no officers on the road to deter crime and immediately respond to emergencies while being mobile or staying inside of headquarters for extended periods of time. So what did I have to do? My directive had to define when officers can be inside of headquarters. It requires that a minimum of certain cars, without divulging that, are on the road at all times. So if that minimum doesn't happen and someone's inside, they need to stop what they're doing and go out to be available to back up another officer. About officer safety, I've had to see behavior recently that one-car dispatches to burglar alarms. That's not something we ever do, but we're doing it. So we need officers to have two-car dispatches, especially at cases where they may be at risk. Since implementing this directive, I continually monitor the department's cameras and now do not see any officers inside, but with the exception of one, eating or someone conducting business. And I appreciate that they're following that directive, and I think that's important. The citizens of Fairfield deserve that. Radio and mobile data computer use. The Fairfield Police Department is equipped now with an encrypted radio frequency that cannot be scanned. So there was a time where we needed to communicate through our mobile data terminal to be able to talk car to car so that people wouldn't scan our frequencies and hear what might be happening. Because you all agreed and we purchased the encryption stuff, we can't be scanned. So there's absolutely no reason to continue to communicate and dispatch cars on an MDT, a mobile data terminal. So now my directive requires that all radio dispatch, all dispatches, and all communications goes over the radio so everyone can hear what's occurring. To me, that was surreptitious because I don't have an MDT in my car, so I can't see or hear what's going on. But over the radio I can, and I can hear it on my phone. Police response to a call for service and minuscule assignments. And this one's going to pain me to tell this story, but because we're here, I have to tell these stories. Because I've been put in the position, I'll tell them. So we had an individual who ultimately was complaining about, he lives in a condo that is adjacent to an industrial complex. And he repeatedly made calls to the department and complained to me that garbage trucks were picking up dumpsters at like 5 o'clock in the morning, awaking him. Nobody else in the condo called on it, but it was bothering him. He went out on his own and identified where these dumpsters were. And so I put out something to say, you need to go try to find this when this is occurring at 5 in the morning. Go look. And we even narrowed it down to the days. On one day, he called and made a complaint. And the officers either thought they disconnected or somehow the connection reestablished. But the officers were actually speaking negative of the caller, and he was able to hear that. Not only did the officer speak negative of the caller, one officer said, "Fuck Gary," and I'm sorry to say that, meaning me for having to have him look at that work. Is that how we're going to deal with public? We're not. We're going to go to calls, and we are going to do it promptly. We had people responding to burglar and bank alarms with no lights, routine response, waiting in traffic. Yes, most burglar and hold-up alarms are false, but you know what? Maybe it's not. Your duty is to get there quick and figure out it's false. Daily vehicle checks. This to me is the one that really it takes the cake after everything I said. This is a standard that has been in place in the Fairfield Police Department for 40 years. It's nothing new. One of the first things that new officers learn is to do a vehicle check before you start your shift. Make sure your oxygen and medical bags are fully filled. Make sure you have the proper equipment. Make sure our auxiliary weapons are ready to go. Most importantly, make sure there's no contraband in the back that could be attributed to an innocent person who's put there. So that's rather important. When I brought this to the attention of the command staff, I'm going to read from a lieutenant who sent this email, and I quote, "This is a friendly reminder that police cars need to be checked at the beginning of each shift. Make sure your car has the required equipment and that all equipment is operational. A vehicle check includes a check of the shotgun. Make sure your shotgun is in the police-ready or cruiser-ready condition. Another note, bring your Narcan and EpiPens inside at the end of every shift. That medicine cannot be exposed to extreme heat or cold. Finally, clean your car out at the end of every shift. Do not keep personal items, bags, clothing in police cars. Throw away your garbage." We had to put that in a memo or in an email. So to ensure that this very essential function is done, My directive now requires that officers call it in that they're doing it, make a computer entry, and do it on camera. Now, let's talk about the new table of organization, which again, I don't need to do that from there. I'm sorry. So the new table of organization and the directives that brought it about. When I was making a decision about how we were going to go forward, and given the fact that I did not see very much compliance, I decided that instead of having my entire command staff, meaning 2 captains, 5 lieutenants, administrative personnel, and a sergeant in professional standards and a sergeant in administration, all worked Monday through Friday, with the latest time being about 5 o'clock. And I thought, since I can't get compliance, I'm going to have to need to change the structure so that I can hold command staff accountable, not line supervisors. Really, it's not my job to hold them accountable. That's not my job. My job is to deal with the command staff. So I basically said, captains, we're now going to split their shifts between 8 to 4 and 3 to 11, so that we had one person in charge of the entire department Monday through Friday, all the way to 11 o'clock. Lieutenants were going to now rotate with the squads so that I had my own command staff person present to ensure this stuff was happening. I changed the professional standards and administrative people to rotate. Instead of working together, they would now rotate between 8 to 4 and 3 to 11, so we had more staffing on the night shift. I required certain personnel, including myself, to be in uniform, and investigative personnel to be in shirts and ties during the day. What I was seeing is we were wearing hoodies and basically T-shirts. So I decided that we needed to have an image of professionalism, and I hold myself to that same standard. Anything that I implemented in 2025, I'm giving grace to anybody, including myself. But 2025, I'm held to that same standard. Trading assignments and outside engagements had to be now approved by me to try to cut down on overtime costs. So I wasn't going to send people to non-mandatory training. And finally, I made new patrol squads based on experience and who I felt would work best with each other. Now, what's been talked about is the increase of the mandatory minimum staffing. Because I had to take the special enforcement unit and the task force officers off of those assignments and put them back in the squads, I'm not going to talk about what our squad capacity is for safety purposes. But ultimately, we increased our squad sizes. So when I put in the new mandatory minimum, it was because we had increased personnel. So I can't account for people who may be out injured for timeframes, but I'm not going to change mandatory minimums based on injuries. I can tell you that our current table of organization is missing 2 patrol officers, but 1 officer is in the middle of being hired, and we will be hiring others. When someone said we're not going to have candidates to come, no, we do have candidates to come. People are still applying to the Fairfield Police Department. We have a special officer in the police academy, and we're going to be putting 2 more through who will be eligible to be hired here, and they want to come here. So it was complaints upon complaints that supervisors, when acting in that car minimum, did not have the ability to supervise. They said, we're responding to calls, you're asking too much of us. So by increasing that car minimum, I now have the supervisor just supervising. So I satisfied what they said to me by doing what I did. And by increasing the car minimum, 2 people are still allowed to take off before overtime is created. That was the same thing that was in effect last year with the lesser car minimum. So that's not the problem. This also assures that more cars are on the road, high visibility for our residents to be safer. It assures better and more robust responses to what was said, increasing dangerous calls, murder at the hotel, countless hotel incidents. I don't want just 2 guys to be able. I want a robust force of 5 or 6 to be there. And for that, again, officer safety-wise, you would think I would be complimented for that. I am looking out for them. I don't want them to go into a situation alone or with only one other guy. And it allows me greater flexibility because I have that extra car that if I have to set an assignment up, I have that one car that could be flexed to be used. Now, let me talk about the success of our directive, this directive. These numbers are telltale, I think. Summons totals since implementing this new directive. In January and February of last year, we issued 137 summonses. In 2025, for the same amount of time, we issued 823. All of last year, we only issued 1,926 summonses. We're nearly halfway there in the first 2 months. Warning totals, because again, I told you, officers cannot be compelled to write summonses, but they need to either take an enforcement action, write a summons, or write a warning. So from a warning perspective, in January, February of 2024, we issued 48 warnings. In January, February of 2025, 1,752. Last year alone, we only issued 453. We've tripled the amount or quadrupled the amount of warnings we issued from the previous year in the first 2 months. And motor vehicle traffic details and stops. In 2024, between January and February, we did 335 traffic details or stops. In the same time frame this year, 2,188. Last year, all totaled, we did 2,802. So we are nearly at the point of what we did all of last year. Current Fairfield police officers who came to us from other departments. I think this is important too. As you said, Administrator, that not everyone leaves a police department because of their chief or the area or the whatever. Sometimes it's personal reasons known only to them. But I'm going to go through a list of approximately 10, but I forgot, and I added them here, that Detective Kochi came from Parsippany. So let's go through that. Lieutenant McNish, an old veteran, Hardiston Police. Lieutenant Tracy, North Caldwell Police. Sergeant Tazinski, Morris County Sheriff's Office. Corporal High, Little Falls Police. Officer Biscotti, East Orange Police. Officer Paterno, Wildwood Police. Officer Scrivo, Essex County Sheriff's Department. Officer Wilk, Glen Ridge Police Department. Officer Kangro, Hudson County Sheriff's Department. Detective Tilton, Hoboken Police Department. Detective Kochi, Parsippany Police Department. Is that a problem? Are we led to believe that they left because they didn't like their chief or they had no confidence in him? Or did they leave for another reason? How about the people leaving the department? I know you hit this, Administrator, but I need to talk about it myself. Because it was implied that people are leaving because of me or because of the hostile environment that is purported to be. Let's look at this now. And I'm not using names because I didn't want to do that. Officer number 1 reached the requisite number of years for retirement and retired. Officer number 2 reached the requisite number of years for retirement eligibility and retired. But not only did he retire, he told me he wanted to get another job, collect his pension, and supplement his income. That's what he told me. Officer 3 left the department to take a position with another police department, telling others that they wanted to be closer to where they lived and coached sports. Officer 4 left the law enforcement profession entirely. And I'm going to quote from the letter that that officer provided me in the resignation. And I quote, "While my time with the department has been brief, I have greatly appreciated the opportunity to serve and work alongside my colleagues. After careful consideration, I have decided to pursue a different path for personal and professional reasons," unquote. Now, it's really funny because this same officer recommended our newest hire to come here because this was a good place to work and, quote, "I was a good chief to work for," unquote. Officer 5 left to pursue becoming a New Jersey State Trooper and requested a leave of absence from this very bad department in Fairfield. And I will quote what that officer said, quote, I fully understand what my temporary absence may present challenges to the department staffing in the short term. However, this opportunity is an important step in my professional growth and a career goal I have been striving toward for some time. One of the things I have always admired is my willingness to help people when they need it. This has proven evident as various officers have taken time away from the police department over the past few years and were still able to retain their positions. Overtime. Let's look at it because that was brought up. So if you look at a comparison of overtime over the last 5 years, if you look at the different categories, everything there, for the most part, that is below supervisor shortage and officer shortage, I have some control over to some extent. Even a weather emergency, I make the decision how many people we may be putting in or not keeping hanging over. I make a decision if we're going to allow people to complete reports after their shifts or not. Those are decisions set by me policy-wise. What I can't control as the chief of police is officers taking contractually guaranteed time off. I can't do anything about it. Now, coincidentally, if we look at the entire 5 years, is it more, and just so you know, this is only for the first 3 months. So is it coincidence or not that this year is the highest that we've had supervisor shortages and overtime shortages due to officers? Is that just coincidental? I don't know. But it's manufactured not by me because I can't do anything about it. I have to follow a procedure. If someone requests comp time, I have to follow it. And if we're able to fill it by ordering an officer in, then I fill it. If we're not, then the officer doesn't get the time off. But what we can't do is let a shift go short. It compromises public safety. So when the PBA states that their officers are overworked and ordered in too often, the public should realize that the PBA members themselves are doing that to each other, not me. It basically is the PBA saying, and I'm going to show you this. I should actually, before I do that, this is the time off comparisons. And I meant to show that before I even got into that. So the time off comparisons, again, for the first quarter of the last 5 years, these are the numbers in every category but military obligation, which no one has control over. Every category is higher than any other year. Sick time, STB time, which is scheduled time back that officers get, and which I'll talk about in a minute, and comp time used. So what the PBA is basically saying is the barn's on fire, everybody. The barn's on fire, but they're not mentioning they brought the gas in the match. That's not what they're mentioning. They're saying it's as a result of what I'm doing. It's not any result. I can't even control that portion. If I could, I would, and I will tell you what I've tried to do to control it. So, because there's this contractually guaranteed time, for as long as their members continue to seek this time off and not worry about what it's doing to their fellow officers, I, as chief of police, can do nothing about it but continue to order officers to work to assure that the citizens and businesses of Fairfield are protected. Here's what I tried to do, though. Canceled all optional training and other appearances for officers that might create overtime. Reduced any non-essential overtime and compensatory time to include not having our annual department meeting, having officers do their mandatory training rather in a classroom setting online when they're working. Canceling officers instructing at police academies. Limiting when officers can stay to complete reports. All of which is in my control and all of which I've taken action on. Requiring investigative and professional standards section personnel to be subject now to overtime recall. So what I never wanted to do, but I was forced to because the PBA says there's safety issues here, the detectives have always been, and not contractually, just viewed not to be on the ordered in list because if something major came in, they may all have to come in. But because of the complaints and the safety, I had to force detectives and supervisors to now be on the on-call list to increase the pool of officers so that officers didn't get frequently ordered in as much. And I did that. Currently in our attorney review is the proposition that an officer's scheduled time back. This is time that was being allowed to create overtime, but in analyzing the contract, it says it has to be with prior approval. So as soon as that is reviewed from attorney-client review, and it's found that I can do this, I will not allow STB time to create overtime. That will conceivably, if you look at the numbers of STB time, that's the most time that the officers have been using. Currently in the process of hiring officers and dispatchers to fill vacancies in the table of organization. We are currently interviewing and have people in background. And I'm considering, because again, people are telling me the safety issue and I have to act when people say that, is deferring our extra duty employment that you see as construction and farming it out for 3 months to the state police or any other department who wants to do it because we have to focus this. So if officers go out and work those details, that's taking away the time that they're with their family. I don't want to do that. But when every time they say it's a safety issue, they force me to have to look at it and try to come up with a solution. The problem is I'm almost at the end of my solutions. And when that happens, it actually is the PBA's problem. They need to talk to their members, and their members are going to have to work that out because I would have done everything I could as a chief of police to solve the problem. The last thing I'm going to talk about, and I need to, is animus towards the PBA. Finally, it is pretty much from out of nowhere, and only recently that the PBA started making repeated claims that I have some animus toward them, which could not be farther from the truth. Coincidentally, it coincided with my advising them in the beginning and middle of 2024 of my plan to eliminate entitlement and enforce accountability to the department. And that's when this all started. I have always supported the PBA, and apparently until recently, they always supported me. Why do I think this? Because for the first 7 years of being the chief of police, and for the 18 months prior as the officer in charge, the PBA did not file any grievance against me, nor did they ever come to me with any issue or complaint to discuss, even when told my door was always open to them. In fact, this same PBA and the executive vice president of the New Jersey State PBA both praised me in the summer and fall of 2024, just prior to the no confidence vote on me, for being the only West Essex area chief to speak out twice at public meetings in Caldwell when they plan to appoint a police director. I guess they support you when your interests are the same, but what do they do when your interests bifurcate? They try to destroy you. I am now going to read from a memo that I sent to the administrator in September of 2023, just prior to the start of contract negotiations between the PBA and the township. See, I do not just praise or stick up for my officers publicly. I often do so privately without any of their knowledge. And at least on 3 occasions, I was instrumental in assuring that officers were able to retain their employment. I'm sorry, this might take some, but I want them to hear it. To the administrator about contract negotiations that were upcoming in 2024. As you are all aware, I have been a member of the Fairfield Police Department since 1985, which is over 38 years. I was humbled and honored to be placed as the officer in charge in 2014 for approximately 18 months before becoming chief. As the department and the township move forward towards this year's PBA's contract negotiations, I feel it necessary to provide you with my assessment of current conditions within the department and concerns that should be considered as the department moves forward into the future. Our department continues to enjoy a phenomenal reputation throughout the New Jersey law enforcement community at all levels. This reputation has been based in part to our overall professionalism, our dedication to getting the job done, the autonomy we give our officers, our leadership, the opportunities available to our officers, and our community involvement, to name just the most common. Simply stated, we continue to hire great people who sacrifice much to serve our community in the way that they do. We are and have always been an extremely active police department. When I took over, I did a top-to-bottom analysis of department needs. During this evaluation, I confirmed the need to put in place a number of new ideas to include specialized units, establish new sections in the table of organization that would handle specific work rather than having everyone doing everything. Assignments, promotions, and new job functions so that we would be ready to address the ever-evolving law enforcement mandates facing us. Reduce the areas where liability existed, reduce employee stagnation, the need for accountability, innovation, morale building, and ensuring that we were always leaders and not followers. I am extremely proud and thankful that the current and past members of the governing body and administration have looked at my plan for the department and have always supported my vision and its implementation. Because you did, I truly believe that we have one of the best police departments in our state, and that it contributes greatly as to why Fairfield is viewed so positively by so many people, and why it is such a great place to live and raise a family. The overall success of our department has not only been because of your support, it was also due in large part to our supervisors, officers, and staff, and their buy-in to this vision, and their willingness to make it happen. I ask and demand much of these employees, and they continue to give much. Outside of their truly professional law enforcement abilities, there is not another area of the department that does what we do for our community in the areas of community policing. Events like National Night Out, Coffee with a Cop, monthly child seat installation events, lead school education, Toys for Tots, Operation Christmas Child, and the St. Thomas Food Pantry Drive. We are also very involved with the Rocco Donatello Foundation, Aria's Wish Foundation, and the Joey's House Foundation. The establishment of the Fairfield Police Foundation has helped to raise approximately $700,000 in just about 6 years. It has truly offset the rising costs of our township in equipment and training and other programs. And now we are finally beginning to reap rewards from our DEA task force officers in that federal forfeiture money is starting to come in from past cases, which will help offset costs for blanketing our town with automated license plate readers, which will make our streets safer. All of these things we have put forth and accomplished were designed to increase officer morale and community engagement and to assure the Fairfield Police Department continues to serve the public in the way the public has come to expect from us. I think we have done exceptionally well in this area, as during my tenure as chief, we have not had one grievance filed, and our officers are truly loved and respected within our community. But we have now come to a critical crossroad for the future of our department. Simply stated, our pay scale in comparison to a majority of New Jersey law enforcement agencies, specifically those in Essex County departments that surround us, is lower than most, if not all, especially given the performance of our officers. Unfortunately, we are beginning to see some of the effects of this practice. While Fairfield still remains a viable place for individuals to seek employment with the department, it is also true that we are not getting the amount of same quality candidates that we once did in the past. It's true that this exists for many law enforcement agencies, but it only becomes worse when salaries are not comparable with similar nearby departments. When you take into account that, given our officers' contributions to their pensions and health benefits, they only take home about 40% of their base salary. In the end, everyone must understand and accept that this is their profession and is how they make money to take care of their families. I absolutely understand the need and the priority for the township to keep costs down, but we must also consider how doing this may affect things, not only tomorrow, but in the years and administrations that will be following us. In that same proposal, I recommended increasing the starting salary, which we were able to get accomplished. In that same proposal, I made suggestions to have special law enforcement officers, after every officer was asked if they wanted to work overtime, that I would allow them to work it so they wouldn't have to be ordered in. That was rejected. I've done as much as any person can to try to help my officers and to make them well paid and professional. And to sit here and hear some of the things that have been written and said about me truly makes me sick. Animus. Let's talk about it. It seems the real animus is the feelings of the leadership of PBA Local 81 and certain members towards me, a fellow PBA member. I don't need to have the state PBA message board truck drive around Fairfield to garner support for me, or to discuss what is wrong at the Fairfield Police Department. What I chose to do throughout my career was to always praise my officers publicly and deal with their problems, shortfalls, and deficiencies privately. Clearly, the PBA does not adhere to that same adage, since they have never brought any issues to my attention before. but instead prefer to rely on public spectacles and smear campaigns like this to resolve those differences. Since March of 2024, I have been the subject of the following: a no confidence vote in which the facts presented to the membership were skewed and not accurate, where I was not notified and or invited to provide my side of what might have occurred, so the members could actually make an informed decision. I'm sure it's not hard to obtain a no confidence vote under those conditions. It's sort of like going to the grand jury. In the grand jury, guess what? You only hear one side. So pretty much you get indictments all the time. Now, I'm not sure that this is true. I'm not sure. So unlike the PBA, I'm going to say, I don't know that this is true. I heard this, and maybe they'll confirm it for me if they would like. But it's my understanding that the state PBA advised Local 81 to not go ahead with a no confidence vote. But they did it anyway. And they also were told if it was not unanimous to not give it to the press. I don't know if that's true. I'm just telling what I heard. So I'm saying it with that caveat. I was a subject, or the town's a subject of an unfair labor practice that was served upon the township, which was filled with innuendo and inaccuracies. 17 grievances have been filed against me or against my actions in probably 1 month. Only one was sustained by the mayor because my policy allows for honor guard members to resign from their position. Other than that, every work-related grievance was decided in my favor, and I'm confident if it goes further, it still will be. Let me also speak about some things that the PBA may not want you to know, as they did not even inform their own membership. And I'm finding these things out now, so it kind of makes me think that the PBA, when it said PBA Local 81, it's not completely all the members. It's a certain group of members. So let's look at it. Shortly after the vote of no confidence, Administrator Gasparini and I attempted to meet with the leadership of the PBA to try and resolve these issues, but they refused to meet without the presence of their attorney. Since that time, we again tried to do the same, but it was met with the same response. Many Fairfield officers were unaware of this until I brought it to their attention, and they thought it was me doing it. Like they thought it was me sitting in office not wanting to talk. But their own membership, their own leaders didn't tell them, it's not him. It's us. Why did the leadership not tell their membership? Maybe this would have gotten things settled, and that's not the outcome they wanted. Many officers were unaware, including even the department's PBA rep, or were not asked whether they consented to the slanderous social media posts that were made on PBA Local 81's social media platform. Can you imagine? The own PBA rep didn't know that that was going to happen. So when confronted with, hey, what's going on with this? Why would you be doing that? There was no answer. Now, why would that occur if it wasn't for a select group of people in control? Because the members themselves didn't know it. It is my understanding that a number of officers are also feeling intimidated by the union to support the activities or face consequences. And I could see how some of our younger officers, and I'm not speaking on their behalf, maybe they absolutely agree with this, but I can also see, I've been around for 40 years, how they could be brought along because they feel they have to. And I hope that that's not the case, because I certainly wouldn't do that to anybody. And quite frankly, the authority of the chief of police is so damn powerful, but I would never use it against or weaponize it against anyone. I've seen it done by others, and I wouldn't do it. But I'll be damned if the PBA is allowed to do it. So tonight, other than the manufactured issues created by the leadership of PBA Local 81, I challenge the PBA to provide me with any issues, incidents, or any time that they ever presented something to me for resolution on behalf of their members. There are none. Now, if I were to discipline any of my officers without following progressive discipline, all of them would jump up and down saying, I cannot do that because it wouldn't be fair. But it seems that the PBA does not play by that same rules. There were no grievances, no union issues ever reported to me, no sits-downs to resolve anything because the union never brought any. So for them to immediately go to a no-confidence vote and resort to their slanderous social media postings You decide what you think their true intentions were. Maybe they felt the old man has been here too long, and they wanted me out for their own personal reasons. A good friend of mine who led a police force in a large city in Essex County recently told me that chiefs don't get to pick who the union president is, but for some reason the union believes they should be able to pick who the chief is. So I'm clear to everyone here tonight that it is not my intention to go anywhere, and for as long as I am the chief of police, I will enforce structure, accountability, and will assure that those under my command do their jobs to the best of their abilities, because our residents and business owners and taxpayers deserve no less. And I thank you, and I apologize for being so long.
Thank you, Chief.
I'm sorry, there's one other thing I do have to mention, because I didn't have it in my, but it was brought up about outside employment. I do want to say something about that, only because it was mentioned. There are departments who allow, their chief puts in place how outside employment is distributed. In some cases, the chief is the first to be asked, then it goes right down the line to the loneliest, lowest patrolman. When I took office, I put into a place accountability so that it would be fair for all. So, just so everyone knows, if I want to work a road job and Mayor Galise has less hours than me and we both put in for the job, you get it. I don't. And what about jobs that no one's taking? Am I allowed to work those? Ones that are in other towns that nobody wants. Can I work those? So I just wanted to say that in response. Again, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
So, real quick, I got something to say. So,
Okay,
sorry, Bill.
that's what I was going to do.
So, real, sorry.
Public's still open. Or not.
Anyone from the public wish to come up? Okay, seeing no one, we're going to close the public portion.
Yeah, so I do have something to say. You know, I'm looking at this, you know, I'm pretty new in this, so I'm looking at this and I'm very disappointed. Aaron, I'm gonna talk to you and everybody else. We do have the facts, but we wanted you to hear it from the chief. So that's, you know, when people come up here, somebody made a comment about Republicans, I think you did, but, you know, at the same time, what happened here is what the other side does. And that's all I have to say.
Yeah, you can be assured we do have the facts. Okay.
I wasn't singling you out, I'm just going off of what you were saying.
The
No.
next meeting, we're closed.
The
Public is
public
closed.
comment
So
session
he
is
can talk
closed.
to me, I can't talk back?
He's a member of the council.
I know who
He
he
can
is.
speak.
I
The
can't?
public comment session is closed.
Why not? I can't say one thing. I could have been
Because
done
the
already.
public comment session is
All
closed.
right, well, I'm gonna say it anyway.
No, you're not.
You-
No.
I am.
No,
You
you're
guys
not.
lost it
You are
tonight.
not permitted.
Lost it,
You are
for
not
sure.
permitted
Well,
to
I can
speak
talk-
in
I can say
public.
whatever I want.
No, you can't. No, you can't.
I can say whatever I want. You give them more credit. Now, one of you talked about their mental health of their families. It's disgusting.
The next meeting of the mayor and council will be Monday, April 28th, 2025 at 7 PM in these council chambers. Do I have a motion to
Motion to
adjourn?
adjourn, yes.
Second.
Councilman LaForgia, Council President Campese.
Councilman
We are
LaForgia.
adjourned.
Aye.
Council President Campese.
Aye.
Councilman McGlynn.
Aye.
Councilman Sefeli.
Aye.
Councilman, Mayor Galise.
Aye.